Whenever I make content involving rail and style joinery, I get asked to do an in-depth video on the Aigner Conner Max jig that I use. Here it is. Over the years, I've approached the task of coping the ends of my rails in rail and style joinery any number of different ways. I've built my own sleds and jigs. I've tried some of the commercial ones available. I have a really nice slider for my large shaper, and those will all get the job done. But for stub tenons these days, all I'm using is the Aigner Conner Max jig. What I like about it is it's dead simple, it always works, and it's really well made. This is not a sponsored video. Aigner doesn't know that I'm doing this. I just really like it and wanted to share it with you. So one of the first things you'll notice about this is that it's a really heavy bit of kit. The aluminum is really thick. The handle is really robust. All the countersunk holes are done really well and cleaned up nicely. There's no chintzy plastic all over it, which all on its own is really nice. And if you haven't seen this in action before, I do have some footage coming up of me using it. But in general, what you do is you put your stock underneath here. You've got a backer board back here. This is your cam clamp that locks it in place. And then you run it past the cutters like this. On the surface, that seems a little bit awkward to be working underneath the jig, but it's not at all. You'll see in a minute. So this is how you set it up for use the first time. When you are preparing your stock, your rail and style stock, what you're going to want to do is run a component through that's say 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 at the same time. And doing it at the same time guarantees that it's exactly the same thickness as your rail and style stock. Then you want to make all four corners of it perfectly square, perfectly 90 degrees, and that's going to become your backer board. The backer board does three main things. The first thing it does is basically what all backer boards do for any type of jig. It helps to prevent blowout on the backside so your rails come out really clean. It's also going to serve to make sure that the piece is exactly 90 degrees to the direction of travel, which is determined by this edge. It's also going to position the stock in the correct place relative to the clamp, and you can see on the backside here that the clamp has a limited length of travel, so you want to find that sweet spot in there where it's clamping enough but not too much. Typically, I find if you make your stock about 3/32 of an inch narrower than the gap, it works really well. So to install the backer board, they give you this movable little piece right here. It has a couple places for pins in there. I've got them removed and I'll explain why in a minute. But those pins temporarily hold it in place while you drive in the two screws into these countersunk holes. And that's really handy because it lets you move your backer board back and forth while you find that sweet spot in the clamping motion that I just mentioned a minute ago. Now to be clear, that works completely as advertised, but what I found a little bit easier is to attach it through these points here. You see I've got a few holes drilled that I've also countersunk, and it's a little bit easier to attach your backer board through there because as you can probably see, the holes for attaching it through this system are underneath the handle here. So in order to install it, you've got to actually remove the handle. So it works as advertised. I just found this slight modification a little bit more straightforward. A woodworking friend named Mike out west, he did this with his jig, so I'm kind of copying his system, and it works really well. So the easiest way to install the backer board and make sure that it's positioned properly in every respect is to push both of them up against the fence and then position the backer board properly for whatever width of rail stock you're using, and then screw it down. This means you don't have to square it some other ways with, say, a square or something like that, which is really awkward. So once your backer board is in place, you're ready to cope your rails. The easiest way to install the rails is to push the jig up against the fence, slide the rail in until it touches the fence, lock it down, and you're ready to go. You can see why I suggested you make all four corners of your backer board a perfect 90 degrees. Effectively, this means by default that once you screw it down, if one edge is up against the fence, the other edge, which is going to register against your rail, is going to be perfectly 90 degrees to the direction of travel, which of course is what you want for a good cope. And also making all four sides perfectly 90 degrees, in other words making it a perfect square or perfect rectangle, means that if you need to refresh your breakthrough edge, all you have to do is rotate it. You don't have to make a whole new piece. So let's take a look at this jig in action. In this video footage here, you see me using it on my small shaper with limiter tooling. And the reason you don't see me swapping out the rail or turning it around is because the bed of that shaper is just a little bit too small for it. So I'm actually using the bed of my jointer and the jointer fence for swapping it out. But on the larger machine where I'm using insert tooling, it's no problem at all. I just leave it right on the bed and swap it out right there. There's plenty of clearance and plenty of room away from the spinning cutter. So it works perfectly with either style of tooling, and it also works really well with router tables. For the shaper tooling, of course, it's much larger diameter tooling and is capable of longer tenons, but this jig will limit you to tenons that are about the same as the thickness of the wooden rail that you have on there, and that's probably going to be around 1 inch. So what I like about this jig, on top of being super fast and super accurate, is the fact that it references off the table and the fence of your shaper or router table. That means that there's nothing in between these master planes and your stock that could be a cause of error. This also means it works perfectly with zero set tooling. Some of you may remember from a couple of years ago, I did a review of Whitehill's kitchen and cabinet door tooling set. That's a zero set tooling set, which means that as you go back and forth between cope and stick, you don't have to adjust your spindle height, and you also don't have to adjust your fence position, and this works perfectly with that system. Also, there are some good things about the fact that it does not reference or rely on the miter slot. First of all, you don't have to worry about your alignment to the miter slot, but also as your tooling changes diameter, and this is probably most relevant to shaper users, but as your tooling changes diameter, you don't have to adjust your sled to compensate for that. All you have to do is set your fences properly, and it's always going to work right. So if you found this interesting or helpful, please take a second and hit the thumbs up button. It doesn't cost you a dime, but it does tell YouTube that you found it interesting. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.